they're unique as well, aren't they? Every single tortoise.
Yeah, if you look at Harry and Ron here, they've both got completely different markings on their shells, and yet they're the same species.
Their feet are quite spectacular. Those claws are really
They're quite strong too, aren't they?
Yeah.
They've got a sort of fair pull on them.
They have.
This idea that they're actually slow. I remember Pete, if he got out of his enclosure, he could be out of the garden and gone in no time at all. You know, he was.
Well, you notice on the feet as well, they've got quite strong claws, quite thick, meaty claws. They are very good at digging. So one of the most common things that we get is when a tortoise goes missing, it can't get out of the garden. Maybe a seagull's had it, and then you find that actually it's dug itself under a hole in the bush. And about 4 or 5 days later, it'll just wander into the garden, and they're like, "Where was it? I searched everywhere," and they just bury themselves under leaves just to cool off.
Oh, bless them. So if somebody does want to think about having a tortoise as a pet or several, what do they need to know? What are the key facts?
To bring them onto the island, you need to get import and export license because they are CITES registered animals. You need to make sure your enclosure's set up and you've done your research on the animal. Although these guys are nice and handleable, size-wise, some tortoises do grow very big. You've all seen photos of like the Galapagos tortoises and that. There are several species that need a lot of space. And also, more importantly, you've just got to make sure that you realise that this isn't a short-term kind of investment. These guys are going to potentially outlive you. So you've got to plan ahead and say, look, am I willing to put 50 plus years into an animal?
Or your family, as you said, who gets passed down.
Oh, yeah, it does indeed. Yeah. And what about, of course, hibernation?
When you get a baby tortoise, we recommend the first 5 to 6 years you don't hibernate. When you've got an adult tortoise, these guys hibernate from about mid-October. They're actually really good, these two. They'll stop eating in September and they stop going to the toilet, they empty their systems and they just slow themselves down and they'll go to sleep. So they end up in basically a fish box, a polystyrene box with a load of newspaper and soil in, and they'll spend the winter in that. We keep them in the shed, but I do know people that keep them in the fridge. Or in a fridge, not the one they use daily, but in a fridge until it starts to warm up. These guys usually wake up about March time.
Yeah.
So it's unfortunate that when we go out and do shows during the winter,
you don't get to
these
bring
guys
them.
are asleep. And the amount of times we've been out and I'm like, I'm really sorry I haven't got Harry and Ron, and everyone's like, "Aww." But unfortunately, once they've decided they're going to sleep, there is no stopping these two.
That's it.
Yeah, that's it. And we have one more little fun fact as well, which I find fascinating. They can't swim, but they can breathe underwater for quite a long time, can't they? And that actually links to something that they do and that you might have heard over the course of the past sort of 10 or 15 minutes or so.
They hiss when they pull their heads back into the shell, which, as you can see, Harry's not wanting to at all. He's got his head stuck right out. But when they pull their head back into the shell, they actually have to exhale, and it comes out as a hiss if they do it quickly.
So that's the sound of them breathing out, because when they go back into their shells, they have to expel all of the air from their lungs. So that's the sound of them hissing, is them actually exhaling before they go back in. So yeah, fascinating little animals, aren't they? They're gorgeous.
They are lovely, I must admit. Well, like I said, I really enjoyed when we had Pete. He lived for quite a few years. I can't remember. He's gone now, I'm afraid, but we had him for several years. And I always remember he was very fond of lettuce and dandelions. Fresh dandelion leaves always used to be
That is a favourite, yeah. Dandelion leaves, dandelion flowers. My children go for the school field across the road from us, and they'll be plucking dandelion flowers, and these guys, it's a gourmet food for them.
Yeah.
So they sound like they're quite simple to look after, really, quite easy pets. Just have space.
You can feed them on a wild-based food. You can look online, and every sort of species of tortoise has a slightly different diet, and you can actually forage for a lot of the diet, and it's actually better than getting shop-bought food. And these guys do get treats. They get strawberries and tomatoes, which they will race to get to. But they're in their outdoor enclosure at the moment because it's nice and warm, so they're enjoying the sunshine the same as everyone else.
Perfect weather for them. Absolutely.